they've been home during this pandemic. They have not been on break. They've been home and working, and this is going to be one of their first breaks where they can sit at home and really be at home. And I think that it's going to be very restful, hopefully, as much as it could be for our students.
Yeah, we got a lot of days off. Fortunately, it was approved by the county and by the schools, so it's nice for everyone just to take a step back, um, look in retrospect of what's occurred, the good things and the bad things, and just take it piece by piece. And hopefully, we're able to, you know, refine ourselves and reform ourselves and make ourselves better, think better, be smarter about things, how we approach things, whether how we even just, you know, think things, how we say things, how we do things. So it's nice to kind of have an opportunity to restart and regenerate and rejuvenate ourselves. With the topic of dealing with change, it's actually perfect that we're talking about that after a period away from our mental health discussions on Wednesdays. But yeah, tell us about it. What are some of the highlights that you want to mention?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that dealing with change is going to be something that's really important for us to talk to our students about, not just because of big major changes that are happening in the world. I think that you could argue that when we say a lot has happened in 2020, it's because a lot of things have changed in 2020. And so how do you deal with change, with things constantly moving, and we have not really had long periods of stability where you're able to sit and think about the change that's happened, or you're just really not able to process it. And so whether it's big change or small change, I want to acknowledge for our students that not all change is bad, and that change can be really scary, but even good change feels scary at first, and you don't realize that it's good until later. So that's what I kind of wanted to highlight and begin our conversation with dealing with change.
Yeah, I think the first point that you mentioned when I was watching the clip is just the situation.
Mhm.
Um, it varies. I mean, we get a situation where we kind of get a bomb dropped on us, and we're like, "Whoa, okay, I'm gonna have to make do with what a card that I'm dealt all of a sudden here."
Yeah.
There are instances where we know a change is coming ahead in time, whether it's like in the short term or in the long term. So, in some sense, we know it's coming. It's forecasted. We can kind of plan ahead on how we want to respond or how we feel about it, or at least it gives us time to kind of like process it. And then
Mhm.
even if we feel good or bad about it when it comes to that point, at least we've had some time with it. Um, and then sometimes there are situations where we don't even know that things are changing. It's like underneath a layer, and it we realize over time or in short term,
Mhm.
it clicks, and you're like, whoa, okay, this happened. Why didn't I realize it before? So I think it just all these different situations come to mind.
Mhm.
But you're absolutely right. I think 2020 is obviously a major change. Um, we didn't see the tidal wave of COVID as it
No.
came, if I may say. We knew it was a big thing, but we didn't know it was going to just sweep everything aside and go for this
Mhm.
long. So it's really been a tsunami in a sense, not only physically but also mentally, emotionally. It's hit us really hard, and it's not just this country; it's the entire world. So
Right.
there's a lot of things that have changed, things that we have control and don't have control. So I think it's
Mhm.
okay to see it that way.
Yeah, you bring up a few really good points. The first is that we had a major change back in March, which was that we were going to switch to online learning. And that was a change that we didn't know how long this change was going to affect our lives, how it was going to affect our lives. There's so much that we didn't know. We just knew that the change was happening, and it was quite sudden. Um, I think not knowing how long the change was going to last for is something that a lot of our students and our staff have had to grapple with. It's like, well, when are we going to go back? When are things going to go back to normal stability? And I think there came a point, maybe after a few months, that we were like, we need to embrace that this is what we're working with for now. And we're not looking for a change to change back. We have to just deal with the way that things are now. And I think that that is a metaphor for a lot of different change. And it could be really small. In my video, I mentioned your parents might want to paint the color of your room. At first, it might be really weird being in like a yellow room after you've been in a green room your whole life, but it's a change that you can adjust to. And I mentioned that change, when you're trying to adjust to it, is typically going to be harder for things that are important to you and easier for things that are not important to you. If someone were to say, hey, our meeting's running 15 minutes late, I'd be sweet change. That's now I get some extra time. If someone said, hey, we're actually canceling this meeting, and I was like, this meeting was really important to me, that's a change that I'm unhappy with or uncomfortable with or sad about. So we have to measure change in how is it going to affect us, how important it is to us, and what kind of emotional reaction or impact is going to have in our life.
Absolutely. And I think a good point that you make, an interesting point that you make, in fact, is that when these changes occur, I think you mentioned it's okay to have an initial reaction to it. So yeah, I think initially when I thought about that one, my initial reaction was, I hope people are just not too unsafe when they initially react. Because sometimes we get, again, in the same sense, we get swept by our emotions.
Yeah.
It's hard to think. And your emotions really get the best of you. So sometimes we say something stupid or we do something stupid. So that's why I think my question is, I think there should be I think I agree with having an emotional or some kind of reaction to it, but how is it best to have a safe initial reaction?
You're actually, yeah, that's a very good point, because what you might be saying is that what reaction is appropriate and not appropriate to change. So for example, the 15-minute, one, if I say, hey, Mr. S, we're going to start this meeting in 15 minutes. And out of nowhere, you just start bombarding me with harassment. Larissa, I'm tired of this. You do this all the time. That might be a little extreme of a reaction to change and not having something go your way. So I want us to be in check with what our emotions are by at least taking a moment to register what that change is. You need a moment to understand that change is happening and it's not something that you expected to happen or even may not have wanted to happen. We all need a moment between when something changes and what we choose to react to at least begin to understand what just happened. If I got the news that somebody in my family passed away, I need to take a moment and understand that news so that I can make an appropriate reaction, which is grief, sadness, loss, anger, all of these things. That would be a really, I can't say like, hey, we're switching the classroom from, your homeroom is this, and now it's a different one. You can't have a reaction as if someone just passed away. That might not be appropriate. And so trying to figure out what's the best emotional reaction to change is going to be from taking a moment to at least understand what the situation is first.
I agree. And I think you talk about the next step is just having kind of a way to navigate through it as well, giving yourself a strategy to actually further like peel the layers at it. But I think if you know yourself, there's a lot of things that go into it. I think it depends on who you are. But hopefully you know who you are and how you can handle these things. What type of situation it is, if it's very severe to mildly severe or to, more low key. Because you don't want to blow it out of proportion or make it too small, in opposite to what I just said. And then also do you need somebody there with you?
Yes.
I think for someone like that, you mentioned like if you lose someone, it's tough to be alone. And then sometimes like even a situation like I don't know what to say or do, like I don't know what to think about that. So sometimes it's like, hey, am I being crazy, or would you feel this way, think this way if this happened to you or you heard this? So yeah, I mean, those type of things come up, like even like unfortunately, racism still exists. So sometimes those things are hard to navigate when you have hopefully no one goes through this, but unfortunately, again, it exists out there and it does occur. I know it doesn't happen as much here compared to other areas, but it still doesn't mean it cannot happen. So when I have had to deal with things that were racist, uh, how I saw racist toward me, I was just like, I felt alone because it was just about me, being Asian or this or that, and sometimes I needed a second opinion.
Mm.
And I got to be strategic on who I talk to about that, because I preferably would like someone that has a similar background to me or a similar kind of experience from my upbringing or just what I look like, the languages I speak and whatnot, so that they can give a perspective that's similar to me, and it's respectable and it's understandable. So those are the type of things we got to think about when we navigate through them. But also, you mentioned, like, even if it's an activity where you can do to help navigate, like calm you down, center, and and speak to yourself, do things and speak to yourself in a way that is going to be therapeutic, but also like really help you dive in deep. So for example, for me, like even just shooting a basketball while I'm thinking about things, or going on a long scenic drive. We've mentioned a lot of these strategies before. They might actually help us quite a bit in, like, okay, all right, this is
Yeah.
how I feel. This is why I feel it. Okay, what should I do now?
Yeah, you brought up around when change happens and you have a reaction, it could be really helpful to have someone with you, and especially someone that may have gone through that change too. So, for example, if I have lost a pet, should I, that is a devastating loss. It's a big change in my life. Now I no longer hear my animal in the background. It is a change to lose someone in your life. And so I might want to go to you because you have lost an animal too. And I'll cry and I'll say, is this normal for me to feel this way after losing an animal? And you'll be like, yeah, this is really, it'll make me feel like I'm having a normal reaction to change. Normal, whatever normal may be at the, whatever that is. I think asking other people, like, is that an appropriate reaction? It helps you feel like, yeah, because change is hard. And then if it's not, like, if it's a not appropriate reaction, I hope that you would be able to tell me too. You'd say, Larissa, you just broke your pencil. You don't need to get so upset. See, that would be an interesting piece of feedback too, is when the emotions are too high. So there's two things there, is that when change happens, you could go to someone and ask her advice around, like, is my emotional response appropriate? I don't think anyone ever says that like with those words, but they're like, has this ever happened to you, or am I acting crazy, was one thing that you'd said. And that's totally true. Someone could say, yeah, I think you're overreacting a bit, or maybe they'll say, like, no, I totally get it, this situation is difficult.
Yeah, and for our students, I mean, especially for the middle school side, um, yeah, it's kind of awkward. Yeah, awkward penguin. I don't know if you guys know what that reference is, but in any case, there are some changes that happen to you as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as a living, breathing organism, there are things that occur in terms of your physical appearance, emotional changes, how you handle things mentally, emotionally. There are some changes you are going to be going through or have gone through so far in during the middle school age. And guess what? There will be continual change throughout the next few years, but you should know more about yourself. And obviously, we try to educate our students regarding those types of things, because I mean, I'm a science teacher. That's gonna happen to human beings. And it's weird because, like, sometimes your parents will try to have conversations with you, or your teachers, or family members, or close friends. Um, Again, it's all about what you're comfortable with, what you want to know. Maybe there's something that you don't know about at all, but someone's trying to tell you. So it's very important to be able to put yourself in a place where you're going to listen. Be open-minded and just listen and try to see things as educational for your sake. I hate to throw all these references and quotes out there, but if you guys watch TV shows or anything on television back in the day, there's always commercials. I don't know if they actually do it these days, but like they always say, knowledge is power.
Oh,
Do you remember those commercials, Miss Laura?
I do, but hold on, because I want to say what you're saying is true, is that because with change, when there is so much uncertainty, and like you're saying, your growing body, and like there's two things. I start out the video by saying that the only constant in life is change, which is absolutely true. And so we need to be prepared for change, or at least like better accepting of that it's going to happen. And that change can be really scary if you are going through it alone or don't know anything about it. And so when it comes to knowing that change is going to happen, like enlist the help of others, listen to those who've maybe gone through change before, have that ground you. This isn't my first election that I've ever voted in, and so I have a roller coaster of emotions in my election response. But someone who's maybe never voted before, and they don't know how to vote, don't know how to react to voting, like they can reach out to people in a community and figure out, like, am I supposed to feel this way? What is change supposed to feel like? And hopefully they receive comfort through change, because like I continue to mention, is that change is difficult, and you should have people who are going to be there to support you through big and small changes in your life.
Yeah, and I think, even on the flip side, like I think trying to positively frame positive and negative changes. Sorry, I'm getting a ton of messages. But regardless of whether they're good or bad, try to frame how you talk about it, whether it's like awkwardly out by your talking to yourself out loud or internally. Try to frame it positively. Like for example, like sometimes even adults do this, but I know a lot of middle schoolers. I remember going like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why blah blah blah? Okay. So a lot of times I'll blame my friends or I'll blame my parents in particular at the middle school age. Instead, like, why can't you say, like, okay, they're trying to do this. Okay, he's trying to do this. She's trying to do this.
Yeah.
Okay. Try to say it out loud why you think they're doing those things, and I think it'll help you quite a bit. Try to navigate through and try to figure out what's going on, why it's making you feel a certain way, why it's making you do certain things. But again, I think it's very important, just take a step back. Like, I know when people say like, breathe, actually breathe. Like, take a deep breath. Like, breathe in with your nose, breathe in with your mouth, just take a deep breath, okay? I know sometimes even, like, I remember as an athlete, when people would say like, calm down, it would trigger me.
Yeah.
So it would trigger me. So sometimes people might be doing things, but it doesn't help all the time. So yeah, I mean, if you know something's gonna bother you when you're upset as well, why don't you anticipate it and tell people around you that your people that you know you're gonna be around, like, hey, if I get upset, I think this is how you should react, and this would really help me. And telling your parents is hard to to do that in those situations, but parents should know. You're their kids. Your friends should know. Okay, your siblings should know. Okay, your teachers should know. So if there's something that you know is going to help you, why would you not share that in advance?
What was I going to say? Actually, is that you remind me of another point, which is that around the middle school age is when, first of all, from when you're a baby to when you're in middle school, you focus on me, what my wants and needs are, probably even until high school, really. But you just want to do things your way, think things your way. It's all about you. And then at a certain point, it becomes to shift. And then you realize that other people have differences in opinions, wants, thoughts, and needs. I want In-N-Out for dinner, but my brother wants Chipotle. And now I have to deal with the fact that my wants and needs are not going to be met. And there's going to be a change in what I have to do. I have to be flexible. And so trying to consider other people is a change, especially at this time in middle school. And it's something people continue to deal with, but being able to accept that there are things that are out of your control like what to have for dinner. You've put in your opinion. You've done what you did. You made your argument for Chipotle. And if you lost, you have to accept that change in your plan. And so I think that change does come with a flexibility that says I have to consider other people's wants, needs, and desires around me.
And it's a very helpful tip as well. Just as much as change is a constant, in essence, time is also a constant. Time is not going to stop.
No.
It's going to continually move. And in some situations, whether it's for ourselves or for others that are going through a change, doing nothing is also a solution too. If you give them time or let the change sink in for yourself or for them, that is also a very plausible solution. I think that's okay. Time actually helps us to heal in some cases where we actually really take the time and effort to think about it rather than making an instant reaction. That is gonna not be the best version of ourselves. So I think that's important to think about. And also, these are very special circumstances with these changes, and disagreements are okay, but if those disagreements result in you potentially hurting yourself or somebody, I don't think it's actually the best decision. It's not in the best interest of life, liberty, love, all those things. It's not in the best interest of anybody. So really think about those things, whether they're small things or big things. These are all topics you should consider.
And you mentioned with time, like I said, with the pandemic, is that at first it was very jarring, and with more time, things had to, the dust has to settle. With time, things will definitely get better because our problems don't last forever, and neither do our solutions. And so other problems will continue to happen, other change. And so you're right, time sometimes means doing what you can to change something in your life, or it means acceptance. And so I could, my parents could come in and change the walls, and I'm like, I hate this. I'm going to change the color myself then. That's in my control. Or I could let time pass and begin to understand that, like, I'm just going to accept that the walls have changed color, and that is okay. So I think change, honestly, is, I want to come back to the point that you made, that change is easier to go through when you have other people in your life that are able to have a little bit of a sounding board about the reactions that you could have, how you're acting appropriately. Should you change anything about yourself now that outside change has happened? So change is definitely not something that you have to do alone. And I think that our school's done a pretty good job of having our staff and teachers relay that to our students, and our students have come forth to share with us whether they've been experiencing change in a difficult way.
Absolutely. And in closing, again, we have been reiterating the same idea at the end of every conversation. We're all in this together, okay? I think that's what you're basically getting at as well, Ms. Lar. That's a very big point that we want to make and end with all the time. Do not put yourself in a corner. There are people, some people like my friends here. If you guys don't know, I'm Avatar Aang in disguise in the Fire Nation. But there are people around that, you can get to know, learn about through your online classes, including your teachers as well. You have a wonderful counselor at our school in Miss Lar that you can reach out to. There are definitely support systems available for you. If it's not any of one of us, there are other resources outside of the Alpha Network. So again, you are not alone. That's actually a Michael Jackson song too. But anyways, you are not alone. Please make sure to reach out if you have any questions or comments. We definitely want to support you as much as possible during these circumstances and beyond.
Sounds good.
All right, so take care, everyone.
Yep, we'll see you next week. Wait, no, we won't.
We won't see each other next week, but the week after that we will. So we have another week off. So yeah.
All right, take care then.